because we want to protect our pension. And the volunteer leadership comes from the state of California, from school districts, and from counties and cities. And we want to let you know that we share your concerns. We are here because we have the same concerns you do. At the end of this presentation, we have question and answer sessions. If we don't get to your questions, we will answer them online and post them on the web. We also have a very short 6-question survey so we can make sure that we are our next presentation is really directed at the issues that concern you. Next slide, please.
Margaret, you might want to tell them to type the questions in the Q&A.
Yeah, and if you have a question, you'll put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the box. So that's helpful as well. If you look at the very bottom, there's a little box that says with a question mark, and that's where you would type your questions in, and we'll take them at the end of the presentation, but please take them as they go. Type your questions in as you have them. So our agenda today includes legislative advocacy, a little bit on CalPERS investments and the changes coming, health benefits, also information about membership. I'll be talking about the 2023 data breach and what's new at headquarters, and then of course, Q&A. Let me start by introducing our legislative director, Randy Cheek. Randy's career spans over 2 decades in public service, including roles in the California legislature and as legislative liaison for the California Lottery. As a legislative advocate with SEIU 1000, he lobbied for improved benefits and working conditions for public employees. Randy is a proud U.S. Army veteran serving during the Vietnam era. He currently serves as vice president and legislative representative for his local chapter, as well as director of legislation for RPEA. Here you go, Randy.
Thank you, Margaret. As she said, my name is Randy Cheek, and we want you to know that RPEA has been representing retirees' interests for decades. We participate at every level of government, and that includes not only the legislature, but the CalPERS board. We also work at helping improve our federal benefits, or Social Security. We expand and protect the rights and benefits, and by that we have sponsored legislation in the past to increase things like death benefits and other benefits for retirees. And we have achieved these strong results with the help of our lobbyists, Aaron Reed and Associates, who are some of the top 10 lobbyists in Sacramento. In the past, we've worked to protect Joint Powers Authority retirees' pensions. We stopped on a number of occasions a CalPERS bill that was trying to have private debt investments with your money, and they wanted to keep it secret, and we stopped that. We have stopped that on a couple of occasions. We opposed a bill this last session that would have potentially eliminated health care for out-of-state retirees. Next slide, please. Currently, there is a bill in Congress. It's HR 82. It's called the Social Security Fairness Act. For those of you who are affected by the Windfall Elimination Provision, or WEP, or the Government Pension Offset, the GPO, these are 2 provisions that have been in the Social Security Act for over a number of decades. They have cut the Social Security pension benefits for our public employees, and we've been fighting to get those provisions taken out of the Social Security Act. HR 82 has already passed the House, and it is the Senate. And as of this morning, we found out that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said he will carry this to the floor before the session ends. Session will end on December 20th, so we only have a short time period in which to get this done. So any of you out there who live in other states, contact your senator, your US senator, and get them to support this bill because it helps our fellow California retirees and retirees who live out of state. Next slide, please. For the 2025 legislative agenda, the new session in California begins now. We already have gotten a couple of bills that we're going to be sending and trying to get sponsors for. One is an inspector general bill at CalPERS. A number of agencies already have an inspector general. We feel this is necessary because of some of the causes that CalPERS has been not as transparent as we would like them to be. So we think an inspector general will help this. We also feel that we need to make CalPERS board elections follow California election laws. At this time, they do not follow California election laws. And we'd also like to have a joint legislative audit of CalPERS to see what is actually being done at CalPERS that we like to see more, like I say, more transparency. And we'd like to help get legislation to halt the Medigap denial of coverage for pre-existing conditions. These are all bills and issues that we're going to be working on in the following session. Next slide. We'd like to have more members of our committee. We have our meetings in person and in Zoom, and even the meetings that we have in person, we do have a hybrid where we allow people to come in through the Zoom process. If you have any experience in legislation or have worked with your legislatures, we would encourage you to apply. We only meet once or twice a month, and we don't have meetings longer than 60 to 90 minutes. We like you to share your knowledge to help us protect your pensions and your benefits. So if you're interested in becoming a member, please email me at legislation@rpa.com. Next slide. And that'll be Al's turn.
Thank you, Randy. And just to let people know that we really are interested in getting you to serve on the Ledge Committee. It doesn't matter if you're out of state. We want your input, and we need diverse voices on our committees. And it's pretty easy to participate via Zoom. So we hope you'll send Randy an email, and we'll get you going. Next up is Al Darby. He got his start working for Southern Pacific and Santa Fe Railroads. He also worked for United Airlines and for a pharmaceutical company, rising in the ranks to regional sales manager for the West Coast. He also worked in high-tech sales that included electronic game systems and the early PCs. His government work started with the state in workers' compensation, and his electronics background led to computer systems development for the state. He retired in 1998 and joined RPEA in 2004, where he has served in many capacities, including president. He's currently our vice president and one of our most outspoken members at CalPERS when it comes to investments. Take it away, Al.
Thank you, Margaret. I just wanted to say that with the holidays coming up, I want to wish everybody a happy holidays and even Merry Christmas. As you can see from this first slide, the return on investment for the PERF, which is the overall pension fund, was 9.3% this year. That's a much bigger improvement over previous years than we have seen, except for 2021 when it was about 21%. It's broken down here: public equities, stocks, 17.5% return on investment, fixed income, 3.7%. Private equity, 10.9%. Real assets, that was a downer because of the real estate market being affected by the high interest rate. That was a minus 7.1%. And private debt, they're claiming a 17% gain there. Over to the left, you see that the funded status of CalPERS is 75%. And what that means is that CalPERS would only be able to pay 75% of the benefits owed each member if the economy were to fail tomorrow, which is, of course, an unlikely event. But it's been languishing in the 65 to 75% range for well ever since 2008, the big crash. And we're concerned that we're not getting close to the 100% funded status that we saw several times prior to 2008. So let's go to the next slide. And you can see that the 1-year return, as I mentioned, is 9.3%. The 5-year return, 6.6%. 10-year return, 6.2%. And the 20-year return is 6.7%. That 6.2% over the past 10 years is not a healthy number. The average pension fund, public pension fund, was 7% for that 10-year period. And so CalPERS is not producing the return on investment that's needed to bring it to at least the average of all public pension funds. CalSTRS, the teachers' pension fund, which is about 60% the size of CalPERS, has been returning much better results. It was 77.7% for the 10-year period. The most recent period, they brought in 8.4%. So it's a much better performance over there within a fund that's close to what CalPERS has in terms of assets. Let's go to the next slide. As you can see, the CEO, Marcy Frost, was able to convince the board to increase her pay considerably in 2024 over 2023. It's about almost 100% greater. She got to 1.2 million in compensation this year, as opposed to the 700,000 last year. So we have a lot of money being thrown at the CEO, and the performance doesn't match it. This 6.2% over the 10 years is not acceptable, and it does not justify the kinds of pension, the bonuses that these people are receiving. If you look down below, we paid out an additional 20 million in bonuses to about 25 managers in the organization, and the biggest one being about 700,000 to the assistant to CIO, or the acting CIO during the period. The rest of the 25 shared smaller amounts, but it all added up to 20 million. Let's go to the next slide. Finally, we have CalPERS has appointed a new CIO, Chief Investment Officer. It is Stephen Gilmore. He's had a 40-year career in the New Zealand pension fund. He has headed it up for the last 5 years before moving over here to CalPERS. He's had an excellent record of performance in that capacity, having produced a 16% increase in the last year that he was there in the value of the pension fund there. It's called the superannuation fund for New Zealand. it expects to produce a 7.8% annually over the next 20-year term. Based on their past performance, it looks like that's going to be a number they can easily achieve. Hopefully he can bring that same expertise to CalPERS and produce the same kind of results. It appears that Mr. Gilmore will potentially change the direction of investments in CalPERS in a couple of different ways. More public equities, less illiquid private equity investment. Illiquid meaning investments that cannot readily be turned into cash, as can public stocks. He will reverse the trend at CalPERS, we believe, away from the expansion of private equity and move back toward the ownership of public equities or stocks, U.S. stocks. The less illiquid holdings that are in the CalPERS portfolio of about 18% were far less in the superannuation fund in New Zealand. It was 5% in 2022 and reduced to 3% in 2024, which serves as a clue to where we might be going in CalPERS out of private equity and into the more public equities positions. Mr. Gilmore believes in a little different approach to investing the total fund, and that is, he calls it the total portfolio approach. This focuses on single benchmark objectives as opposed to individual asset class benchmarks within the total portfolio. The best example of how TPA enhances return on investment is when an investment class has excess funds. It looks across all classes in the portfolio for the best place to put the excess funds rather than simply reinvest them in the asset class that produced them. This gives a more integrated approach and is probably a safer and more productive kind of approach to the total fund. So hence the TPA approach, total portfolio approach. In private equity, CalPERS has been continuing to expand until now. It did shift out of large buyouts to middle range companies where more opportunities exist and costs are lower to get in. More co-investments in private equity LPs, general partners, along with equities in late stage venture capital investing is the watchword at the moment. These investments require less management fees and less carried interest. Secondaries are also being bought. Secondaries are best described as LP positions that may be for sale, and usually they're for sale when the total entity isn't being liquidated. When they want out individually, an LP will usually be selling that position, called a secondary, at a discount. The current private equity program at CalPERS is not producing good returns. It's negative cash flow at the moment, and it's being more investments are happening than distributions are being received. The private loan program is one where it seems like they're sworn to secrecy. Very little information can be determined about what the performance of the private loan program is. we're very concerned, and we continue to query what's going on with that program at CalPERS. That pretty much wraps up what I can say about investments at this point in time. There will be a January meeting of the board. It's a education event, and at that point, we will learn a lot more from Mr. Gilmore about his plans for CalPERS investments in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Kind of exciting news about the new Chief Investment Officer. We'll need to stay tuned to see what's happening, but exciting news with this new CIO. Next up is JJ Jelensik, our Director of Health Benefits. JJ is a retired CalPERS investment officer who started his union activism as a member of Oakland Teamsters. He joined California State Service in 1986 and became active in CSEA's Civil Service Division, now known as SEIU Local 1000. He is known for years of service as chair of the Unit 1 bargaining team, representing more than 43,000 rank and file state workers. He also served as president of CSEA from 2003 to 2007. Most impressively, while working as an investment officer, JJ was elected to the CalPERS board, serving 2 terms from 2010 to 2018. JJ.
Well, before I get started, I want to commend my previous speakers because they've apparently answered all the questions, because there are almost none in the Q&A. So I encourage the listeners to raise questions. On health benefits, most of you know that Social Security benefits are increasing 2.5% in 25. That's not as much as last year, but then inflation is lower, and I will take lower inflation any day. Next slide. One of the things that is happening is the IRMA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount, which increases Medicare. If you make less than a single taxpayer pay less than 106,000, or a joint filer making less than 217, you pay 185 a month for it. If you make more, then you have to pay more. If I can point to the middle of the chart, if you're greater than, again, single person greater than 133, less than 167, you pay an additional 185 a month. And it should be pointed out that this income can include any distributions from your IRA or 401k, and would include any amounts that were converted over to Roth. And I'll point to the bottom one. You know, if you're an individual making more than 500,000 or a joint filer making more than 750,000, you'll pay an additional $443. But I don't have a lot of sympathy. If you make that much, you can afford it. And I would like to join you at some point. Next slide. There's a couple of changes that are coming. Kaiser this year has expanded to Monterey, parts of Monterey. Next year, the plan is to, so 26, the plan is to cover the entire county. That's an advantage to seniors because that will allow Kaiser to offer its senior advantage plans to Medicare and retirees. So that's coming in 26. It is subject to approval by DMHC, but everybody expects that to happen. Next slide. One of the other additions that is happening is United Healthcare. The Signature Harmony is expanding into additional parts of El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, and San Joaquin County. Again, that impacts the basic plans, but stuff tends to flow uphill. Next slide. the CalPERS board adopted a risk adjustment strategy. And they used to do risk adjustment based on the healthcare and the health characteristics of the insured population. They have now moved that is based simply on costs. The end result is, excuse me, they're really protecting the insurance companies, and CalPERS is subsidizing the higher premiums. It impacts only the basic plans, but that's important to our members because we have a number of members who are in the basic plans. They're not in Medicare, either because of their age or because they were never covered by the program. But the other impact is a longer term one. If you encourage higher medical costs in the basic plan for most people, that eventually impacts all medical costs, which ultimately flow up to us, which will increase the Medicare Part B, C, and D costs. So it is important to us. I have some examples of what they're doing on the next slide. And this is Sulimas, which is basically in Southern California only. But as you can see, the premium for 2020, I used 24, it was $519. The board decided that was too cheap, so they added $137.87 to it for a total premium of $565. That is actually 26% of the premium is in this surcharge that the board has imposed. Next slide. This is the Kaiser, and this time I did get the 2025 rates. As you can see, Kaiser is going to collect $935.24 per member per month. The board has decided in its infinite wisdom that that's too low. So they have added $109.96 as a surcharge. So they will be collecting $1,045.20 per member per month, even though they're only going to be paying Kaiser the $934. And that's obviously a problem. Next, and I picked Kaiser because it actually is the largest group in Kaiser. As you can see, it's a little over 500,000 lives, which means this surcharge is some $50 million a month. Next slide. And then I chose Blue Shield Access Plus because it's the HMO that is being subsidized the most. You can see they negotiated a premium of $1,124.64. The board said, well, gee, you're paying a lot, so we want people to join this plan, so we're going to subsidize it by $158. And so you can, if you're a member and it's a combination of member employer, you can buy it for $965, even though we're going to pay $1,224 to Kaiser. This is really, really a bad problem. And unfortunately, it's been adopted by unanimous votes. When the board first changed from risk adjustment based on health characteristics to how much money the insurance company paid out, there was only one board member who voted against it, and that was Margaret Brown. But these rates now are being adopted universally by the board, and most of them don't understand what they're doing. Next slide. We're looking for volunteers for the Health Benefits Committee. As with all the other committees, we meet once, twice a month. They tend to be an hour, hour and a half. They can be hybrid meetings. We like to do them in person because that builds camaraderie. We're looking particularly for people who have some experience in the health field. It may be someone who's been in HR and has dealt with benefit, counseling people on their benefits. Could be somebody who's negotiated benefits as a union negotiator. You can email me at healthbenefits@rpea.com. We're certainly looking for some more people, and from my viewpoint, I'd like to see some younger people, but that's it. And I think that's it.
Well, thank you, JJ. We're not ageist here since we're all seniors, or retirees. But I do want to thank you for your continued advocacy on this risk adjustment. When I was on the board, I just couldn't understand why we would subsidize the most expensive plans. And I saw it coming, but I couldn't get the rest of the board to see it. Now
the board made that decision because that's what staff told them to do. And the board really is not looking at the paperwork. They're not looking at the reports, and they're certainly not thinking about the implications. If staff says jump, they say how high.
Not all the board, not me, and not you when you were on the board. And then I want to say that if you haven't watched any of the board meetings, we'll be posting those on our website for the CalPERS board meeting, so you could watch them, especially what's going on with health benefits. JJ is a very forceful and outspoken advocate for members, and he keeps pointing out these issues to the board. And some of them are becoming more enlightened about the ramifications of their actions. So I really appreciate your advocacy, JJ. Next up is Elena Uwasa. She is RPEA's Director of Membership. She is retired from the state of California after 33 years of service. She worked as a manager for the State Board of Equalization. She's been a member of RPEA since 2013, and she's also served with several other organizations as committee members or board members. And her expertise as a labor subject matter expert provides her with deep insights into membership engagement. Elena is committed to fostering a stronger, more connected community, ensuring members' voices are heard and valued. Elena.
Okay, thank you, Margaret, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to have you all here today. Connecting with our amazing RPA community is always a pleasure. As a director of membership, I'm here to support you, grow our membership, and ensure every retiree knows that RPA is there to protect your pension and benefits. But here's the thing, I cannot do it alone, so I need you to get involved and help us. Together, we can continue to grow, strengthen our voice, and protect what matters most, our pension, our healthcare benefits, and our future. Now, my role as the Director of Membership. What do I do as the Director of Membership? Well, my main job is developing and coordinating programs that help grow our membership. I work closely with area directors, chapter leaders to support local chapters. That means supporting or reopening chapters, or even helping to launch brand new ones. If your chapters need assistance, I'm here to help. Please feel free to email me at membership@rpa.com. Now I have some exciting news. I'm excited to share that we're exploring creating a new RPA chapter in Texas, possibly in Austin, Texas. Why Texas? Many of our members have moved there, and we want to better serve our members and grow and expand our retirement community. If you are in Texas or know someone who is, let me know. There is an incredible opportunity to build something new together. Next slide. Now, expanding our presence and influence. One of the best ways that we grow our influence is by attending key events. I have been attending CalPERS open enrollment events, employer open enrollment events, and CalPERS conferences. I have received a positive feedback and recruited new members at those events. Participating in those events have been very successful for RPA because it allows us to connect with potential new members and explain what RPEA is doing to protect their pension and healthcare benefits. Also, we share all the fantastic perks that they can get as members. I would love for you to join me in one of those events. There's a lot of fun. Please join me. Please let me know you would like to participate. Next slide. Revitalizing and strengthening chapters. Now let's talk about chapters. I know sometimes chapters would like to find new chapter leaders, maybe increase participation or attendance, find a new location, or a great speaker for the meetings. I get it. You are not alone. I'm here to help to bring new life and fresh ideas to your chapter. We have seen this happen before. Take chapter 25, Long Beach, for example. They were facing some challenges, but we turned things around. New leaders step up, and now chapter 25 is on its way to success. We were successful because we tried a new marketing strategy, redesigned our postcards to bring the members back. And guess what? It worked. We're also launching online approaches to reach our members, such as Zoom meetings and a webinar like this one. We have also continued updating our website and bringing fresh ideas to revitalize our chapters. If you have new ideas on how to expand our membership or help our chapters, please email me at membership@rpea.com. I mentioned earlier about the fantastic perks I share with potential new members. And I also would like to remind you that you as a member need to access those benefits. And if you need assistance, or please reach out, check our website for more information. Next slide. Get involved. Be the voice that matters. Here's how you can get involved. Volunteer at those key events that I mentioned earlier. Support your local chapter by stepping into a leadership role, suggesting speakers, or help any way you can. Spread the word. Tell other retirees about RPEA and our work to protect their benefits. If you're ready to make a difference and impact, I want to hear from you. Please email me at membership@rpea.com. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you, your voice matters, your role matters. I look forward to seeing you at your next chapter meeting or just connecting with you. I would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being part of RPEA.
Thank you, Elena, for all you do for our members and our chapters. We couldn't do it without you. And please, if you're interested in serving on the membership committee, we always like to hear new ideas and get members helping out. And again, you can participate via Zoom. We're doing that now all the time. We've gotten really good at it since COVID. So please send her an email and sign up. So I'm going to be going over the data breach. If I have the next slide, please. So in 2023, almost the entire United States, we found out now, was impacted by the Move It transfer data breach. It occurred in May of 2023. RPEA retirees were notified on June 22nd. We were at a CalPERS debriefing meeting, and it just happened to come up, and it shocked all of us because it had been more than 4 weeks since the breach had occurred and we hadn't been notified. And so we were quite distraught about that. Over 769,000 retirees were impacted.
Margaret, if I can inject, the board was not told about it until June either.
Okay. Thank you. So the board or RPA was not notified. 769,000 retirees were impacted. And we got Experian credit monitoring for 2 years. Now, most people who were impacted by this in other organizations or maybe your medical information got 1 year of credit monitoring. We've got 2 years. We still don't think that's adequate. And while 200,000 members signed up, which is really a lot in terms of how these data breaches go, there are still 569,000 unprotected members. And that's pretty darn scary because their social security numbers, their date of birth, their beneficiaries, their addresses, their state or government employer, all that information was leaked. And now this CalPERS did not leak it. It was a CalPERS vendor that leaked that had the leak, but it still impacted all our data. And the real issue for us is that the identity theft impact is unknown. CalPERS, as far as we know, is not tracking it. We don't get any reports or any information of any identity theft or anything that's going on. So we want RPEA wants to know what's going on with you. So if you have been impacted by identity theft, we would like to know, because we want to see if we can't start tracking. We would like CalPERS to provide additional education and training for our members, other than just signing up for Experian. That's a bit problematic, but we're staying engaged and we're staying active. In our local chapters, we hear all about of these impacts and these threats. Typically, we may have someone from the district attorney's office come in and talk to us about what's going on with identity theft and elder abuse fraud. And so we just need to remain vigilant, but RPEA is concerned and we'd like to know if you've been impacted. So please email us at RPEAHQ if there's an issue we should know about. Next slide. Here's something else you can do if you're the victim of identity theft. Hopefully, those of you, if you're on this website, then you know how to use a QR code with your phone. You actually put it on camera, take a picture of that, and you can report your identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission. You also need to file a police report. Many people are embarrassed when it happens to them, and it happens to everybody. It's not your fault. These people are sophisticated. They know we are busy. They know we are confused, and they're able to take advantage. But please file a police report, because if you don't report it, it makes it very difficult to stop. And then please make sure, if you are the victim of identity theft, that you keep detailed records. Just get a special notepad every time you contact someone, and then again, let RPEA know. Next slide, please. Okay, something on a little lighter note. As the new president coming in, I wanted to make some changes and communicate more with our members. And so we've changed the RPEA magazine. It used to be called the newsletter, but it really was always a magazine. So we've changed the name. We've got more content, more detailed content. Some of it's controversial, but please read it and give us your feedback. We're going to be starting with member and chapter spotlight. So if you're a member and you've got something interesting going on, we want you to email us at editor@rpea.com and see if we can't do a spotlight on somebody that's an RPEA member. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about RPEA business. It could be how you volunteer or any other thing that you're doing to support your community or seniors in your area. We also have a section called Ask RPEA. If you have a question or a concern, you can send your email to askrpea@rpea.com, and we will research that matter for you. We represent you all. We're here to help you all. And so tell us if you need assistance, and we will do our best to help you. Again, we're doing more communication. You've probably gotten a few more emails from RPEA. We've been working on the WEP GPO, trying to eliminate that. You've gotten a couple emails about that and some communications. If you are not getting those emails, you may have blocked us or unsubscribed. We all go through a period of time where we're tired of getting a bunch of emails, and so we unsubscribe to everything. So if you're not getting emails from RPEA, please send us an email and tell us you want to be back on the subscription list, and you'll get the updates. We don't send out very many But the ones we do send out, they are alerts, and usually we're asking you to take some sort of action or to be aware of something that's going on. The latest one was the Anthem Blue Cross had some emails go out that were not real. So again, just stay involved, stay engaged. The other thing we're doing here at headquarters, before it used to be all Elena and her membership committee helping all the chapters. Well, now, even at headquarters, we're doing more for the chapters. So if they want to send out a newsletter or a postcard, we can actually help do that here at headquarters, as well as you can use our nonprofit mail permit. Saves you money and it saves you time. We've also extended our hours here at headquarters because we're here to serve you. One other thing we've done at the headquarters, I didn't put it on the slide, is that we've gotten rid of some old bulky furniture, got some new furniture, not used furniture in, but we're going to be able to host all our committee meetings and our board meetings here at headquarters, which of course saves monies because we don't have to rent a space. We can fit all in here. And so we're very excited about some of the changes coming. Next slide, please. This is your turn that you can ask us questions, and we'll go to the panel and ask them to help us answer the questions. So let me go to the first question. This is going to be for legislation. Randy, make sure you unmute. Is RPEA going to be involved in the reintroduction of SB 278? If you didn't get your RPEA magazine, there's a story in that about how the governor vetoed the financial elder abuse bill. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, that's a good question. The financial abuse bill that was introduced by Senator Dodd last year and made it through both houses was vetoed by the governor. I read his veto message, and I'm not sure he had a good excuse to veto the bill, but he sort of left the door open, saying that there is a chance that with some improvements that we can get this bill through. Senator Dodd, as was pointed out by Bill Wallace, was that he has been turned out, and the new senator taking his place is a friend of ours. So the issue will be, we have our priority bill right now, along with that bill would be the Inspector General, the elections bill, and the Medigap bill. Those are three bills that we're very concerned about. This is another bill. There are a lot of new legislators. The turnover was high because of people going on to other areas and so on and so forth. So we'll have to do a process of educating legislators as to who we are and what our issues are. And this is one of the reasons why we want you to get involved with legislation. And most likely, a good way to do that is to visit your legislature in your district. Every legislator has district offices, and I would encourage you working. I know Elena and I have talked about this, setting up district office visits, and those are some of the things that we can do. But we will approach legislators. I'm meeting with Aaron Reed and Associates tomorrow, so we'll talk about where we can go. Now, the problem this session is that all legislators have been limited to 35 bills, which means they used to be able to carry 50 bills. Now they can only get 35. So we're going to be competing with a lot of groups, including the big money groups, like the Chamber of Commerce and so on and so forth, who will be out there trying to get legislation also. But I think we have some good friends in the Senate and in the Assembly, and we will work with them to try and get this bill reintroduced. And we'll work with the governor's office and seeing what we can do to get it signed this time.
Thank you, Randy. Another question, I think this is a bit silly. Are hats part of the new branding of RPEA? And the answer is just for the roundup. Thank you. That's very funny. This question is for JJ. Are Senior Advantage plans moving towards privatizing Medicare? And if so, is it something we want to get rid of, or does it help with adding more services to those who use Medicare?
Well, CT, that's a conversation we've had before. But the Medicare Advantage plans are actually private insurance currently. They have minimum standards. They have to cover the Medicare benefits. And quite frankly, there's both good and bad to it. It has added some added benefits for people, and so that's desirable. The disadvantage is that it does force you into a narrower network, but you realize that when you're getting into it. And because it's a private insurance, the administrative costs are higher, and they have a greater tendency to deny benefits. So it's a mixed bag. I would say in general, we want to see them hang around, but I think we do want to see much stricter regulation of it. One of the companies that's notorious right now is United Healthcare. They actually have been sending nurses into visit, members of their plan, and they have a tendency to upcode to make the medical records show that the person is sicker than they are, and because if they're sicker, they get more money. One of the things that they got caught on is they've got over 500 people who have diabetic cataracts on their artificial cataracts or their artificial lenses. Medically, it's impossible, but they got caught. But that's the kind of thing that you see, which leads to more regulation, or should lead to more regulation. So anyhow, it's a mixed bag.
Thank you, JJ. The next question is for Elena Yuasa. I may be moving to Idaho. Not me. Is there an RPEA chapter there, or do I remain a member here in California?
Hello. Yeah, we don't have actually a chapter in Idaho, but I would like to recommend that you remain as a member of California for now to keep yourself informed of what's going on in our efforts to protect your pension and benefits. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you. And then again, with this RPEA roundup is another way that we can connect with you and take your questions and answers. So it's like a chapter meeting, only it's all
online.
The next question is for JJ. Has RPEA been educating legislators about the CalPERS actions that have increased the health plan premiums?
We certainly have been trying, although sometimes dealing with legislators, you got to take a 4x4, hit them upside the head to get their attention first. So we haven't had a lot of impact. One of the things that we have also done is we've actually reached out to the employers because they get burned on it too. And we're trying to generate some more publicity there. It will certainly be an issue that we will make in terms of the Inspector General bill. Right now, the biggest educational process has actually been trying to get the board to understand what they're doing.
Great. Thank you, JJ. The next question is for Randy Cheek. CalPERS board elections are coming up next year. Will RPEA be endorsing candidates? And how does that work? You'll need to unmute.
We have been endorsing candidates in almost all the elections. As you know, we endorsed Margaret and JJ, and we endorsed me when I ran. We call the candidates in and interview them. The committee does, the legislative committee does, and we interview them. We make that meeting public so that if you're, even though you may not be a member of the committee, you can listen in and ask questions. So we do call on the candidates. We do ask them and try and get more information about their views and where they stand. And we will do that. There are 2 seats up this next election. One of them, they're both the statewide seats in which anybody in CalPERS can vote for. So that will be retirees, state workers, uh, local governments, so on and so forth, will all be able to vote in this next upcoming election. In fact, I think Margaret and you were one of the statewide elected officers with CalPERS. It's an important seat, as you know. We see that, as you heard from JJ, the board tends to rely heavily on staff and not on facts and information that is presented to them. And, you know, Al is there presenting facts. JJ, Margaret, I have all presented facts to the board that seem to be brushed aside. But that's why it's important that we get involved in these elections and elect people who will not be swayed by staff, but more by us who elect them. And I know JJ has his hand up to say something.
Oh, I was just playing with my computer, but the raised hand is not going to be picked up by the administrator. So there's actually a note that we should remind people to put their questions in the Q&A rather than simply raise their hand. So I'll pass that on.
And that's true. If you have questions, like I said, we will interview candidates. We know that there's one organization that tends to spend a lot of money on getting their people elected. They spent $700,000 against me in the last election for the retiree seat. And I know they spent hundreds of thousands against JJ's and hundreds of thousands against Margaret. So people who ask questions, this group doesn't seem to want on the board. So, but we're going to try and find a candidate that are 2 candidates that we can support and people who will not be rubber stamps for the administration.
Thank you, Randy. The next question is for Elena Yuasa. Let's just take 2 more questions and then we'll end the webinar. Just a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box below and we will get back to you and put all the answers on the website. It'll take us a day, but we'll get there. So Elena, this is a good question. Can I join RPEA if my husband was retired and now I get his pension? I think she's saying he passed away. And you'll need to unmute.
Well, thank you for the question. Yes, you can join RPEA as a beneficiary. So, and the membership will be $60 a year. And if you would like to use a credit card or a check, you can send us the paperwork and we'll process your application. You have no problem at all. We'll welcome you with open arms.
Great. This question is really interesting and this goes to the data breach, but I think JJ, you'll be able to answer this question. And it says, I received a letter from a hospital about services and they had a data breach, but it took a long time for them to send out this information. And they're wondering, is there a class action lawsuit either against the hospital or any other company where there were leaks?
Well, The hospital, I don't know. I saw the question and it looks like it was a specific hospital that got breached. So I have no idea if there's a class actions lawsuit. I will assure you that if there is, the lawyers will reach out to you. In the case of the CalPERS breach, yes, there is there were about 4 class action suits. They've been consolidated into one, and that is pending. But the lawsuits are lawsuits, and they take a long time.
Great. And then the last question, has CalPERS offered to educate members about how identity theft and fraud issues, such as freezes on your credit when you travel? So there really has not been any education classes by CalPERS, even though we've made that request. We haven't made that demand, but I think RPEA is going to fill that role. We'll do probably another webinar about identity theft and credit freezes here. I think we all in our local chapters have helped our members who've had issues with either showing them how to lock their credit, and then of course showing them how to unlock their credit if they go to Home Depot and can't open an account. And again, people just need to understand what they need to do, what they can do, and RPEA is here to help. You know, we didn't cause the data breach, and they seem to keep happening. I mean, every couple of months you get a notice or a postcard in the mail, and you can sign up for free credit monitoring. And I have to tell you, you really should do it. Just sign up, and then they'll alert you if someone has like applied for a credit card, and you can say, oh yes, that was me. Like I needed to get an auto loan, and I was getting all these notices, and it's like, oh, yes, that was me. But I think that's important as well, to just stay vigilant and take advantage of the credit monitoring when it's offered to you. It's not perfect. Sometimes it's not even that great, but it is something. And I at least feel a little protected when I've done that. And I have closed my credit as well. I have locked my credit, so I can't get a card, or there's no inquiries. You just have to remember to unlock it if you're going to get a car loan, or maybe it's a loan at somewhere, get a new credit card, something like that. I want to thank everybody for their participation today. We need your feedback. We appreciate you being here, but again, asking your questions and then taking our little survey at the end will help us do a better job in serving our members. We are here to serve you, and we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a lovely holiday. Bye-bye.
Adios.